The film begins with rock climbers scaling a cliff face. Becky and Dan are their names. The couple recently married and share a passion for rock climbing, which takes them to some of the most dangerous terrain on the planet. Becky also goes there with her best friend, Hunter, who has similar interests. In fact, the three of them are constantly on the lookout for new and exciting things to do. However, on their way to the top, Dan unintentionally stumbles upon a bird's nest, leaving him hanging by a thread. The force of what just happened causes his anchor to destabilize, and despite Hunter and Becky's efforts to save him, they are unable to reach him in time, and he falls to his death. 51 weeks later, she still carries his ashes with her and has become an alcoholic who wastes her life away, despite her caring father's reprimands. Her father eventually sends for her best friend, Hunter, to pay her a visit in the hopes of getting Becky back on her feet. Hunter tries to persuade Becky to join her in climbing an abandoned TV tower, the B-67 Tower, about a 6-hour drive away. After a year of doing nothing exciting together, Hunter suggests that Becky scatter Dan's ashes from the top to say goodbye. Hunter also reminds Becky of what Dan said about facing fears in life to keep her motivated. Becky changes her mind in the morning after reminding herself that Dan would have wanted her to seize the moment, despite her initial reluctance due to her trauma. They stop at a diner on the way to catch up on each other's lives. Becky finally learns that Hunter is now working as an online show host. A waitress interrupts their conversation, so they decide to ask her where the infamous TV tower is located. The waiter then points to a red dot in the sky, indicating that the tower emits a red light at night to prevent planes from colliding with it. Since the waiter stated that Becky's phone cannot be charged for free, Hunter shows her a makeshift charger that allows her to charge her phone wherever she wants as long as she connects it to a power source. Following that, the two decide to stay at a nearby motel, and that night, Becky has a nightmare that begins with Dan sleeping next to her. The dream begins with a flashback. She tries to get him to say "I love you," but instead he says the numbers 143. Then, all of a sudden, blood begins to seep through the comforter. Becky is awakened by Hunter, who is getting ready in her car to start their exciting day. After Becky gets in, Hunter starts filming while driving for her online show, a risky maneuver that nearly gets them hit by a passing truck. However, the two best friends simply laugh about it and continue on their way, demonstrating that they are already in their insane mode. They are forced to park next to a locked gate and a sign that says "No trespassing," but that won't stop the two. They climb over the fence and make their way to the tower, passing by a couple of vultures feasting on a dying goat. They scare the vultures away, feeling sorry for the poor thing, while Hunter takes a picture of the goat and posts it on Instagram before they resume walking. When they arrive at the tower, they are both nervous and fascinated by its height. Hunter records more vlog content at the structure's base, informing us that the TV tower is 2,000 feet tall and the fourth tallest structure in the United States. Becky is already hyperventilating from the sheer height of the thing, but Hunter reassures her that everything will be fine. The two begin climbing after securing a rope that binds them together. Becky can be seen gathering her courage before beginning to climb with her best friend. Unbeknownst to them, the old structure is already unstable due to long periods of abandonment, and can be seen rattling here and there. Becky continues to climb despite her fear, and at one point she even breaks a piece of the rusted ladder. Hunter, who notices this, motivates her to continue climbing. They then take a brief break to drink something. The lines, according to Hunter, indicate that they are halfway up, which means they have climbed 1,000 feet, or the height of the Eiffel Tower. They are so high up at this point that the wind is really howling. They finally made it to the first ledge. They will proceed to climb the 200-foot-high external ladder after climbing the 1,800-foot ladder inside a steel cage. Becky notices how far up she is as she climbs the ledge, which causes her to become visibly upset. She climbs on, though, thanks to Hunter's constant encouragement. Becky's anxiety continues to flare up as she pushes herself to the absolute limit. They continue climbing the tower after parsing the satellite dish. Hunter eventually starts making fun of Becky by shaking the ladder. However, they are unaware that a bolt on the ladder has been released. After all of their worries, the two eventually arrive at another ledge at the very top. Reaching this high is undoubtedly exhilarating, and Becky rejoices alongside her best friend, who takes out her drone and begins filming the scenery for her vlog. Hunter, of course, does not stop there. She hangs herself from the ledge and asks Becky to photograph her. She then asks Becky to do the same, and despite her initial reluctance, Becky eventually agrees and hangs off the ledge while clutching Hunter. Despite the danger, the two are miraculously alive, and Hunter proudly embraces her best friend for overcoming her fear. Next, Becky makes the grand gesture of scattering Dan's ashes to the wind, and the two share a heartfelt moment reminiscing about Dan. They're ready to head back down now that that's all over. They put their harnesses back on and tuck everything back inside the backpack, with Becky going first. When the disaster struck, however, things quickly escalated. Becky is suspended in the air after the old ladder snaps. Hunter is instructed to wrap the rope around the tiny pole to gain leverage and gradually pull Becky back up. Meanwhile, the entire length of the ladder has been ripped off the main pole and is now crashing to the ground behind Becky. Becky and Hunter are relieved when they make it back up, but it doesn't take long for them to realize that the ladder has vanished, making it impossible for them to climb their way down. They try to check their phones, but there is no signal this far up the mountain. They then discover a small emergency box at the bottom of the pole that contains binoculars and a flare gun, but the gun is useless right now. Not only that, but Becky's backpack, which contained their water and drone, has become entangled on a satellite dish below them, out of reach. Becky begins to panic, which is heightened by the discovery of a massive gash on her thigh. Hunter assures her that the loud crashing noises caused by the ladders falling earlier must have attracted some attention, and that assistance is on its way. Becky calms down and agrees to wait after hearing this. Becky eventually pees off the ledge because she can no longer hold it. The two laugh lightheartedly and then try to kill time by vlogging. Hunter eventually opens up about why she started vlogging, which turns out to be Dan's death. A few hours later, Hunter decides to look around with a binocular and discovers an RV park not far from the tower. This is when she has an idea. She takes out her phone and recalls that there was signal when they were at the bottom, based on the number of likes on her recently posted picture. This means that if they lower their phone sufficiently, they will eventually receive a signal. Hunter creates an Instagram post asking her followers for assistance, then secures her phone with a hair tie. She then lowers it with a rope, but they don't hear the ding that indicates it has been posted. As a result, the insane Hunter decides to hang herself from the last remaining ladder, but it still won't post. Becky then has the brilliant idea of simply dropping the phone down, but to prevent it from breaking, they tuck it inside Hunter's shoe and pad it with socks and a push-up bra before dropping it below. Becky notices a tattoo on Hunter's feet, and Hunter notices a guy and his dog standing right below, though he appears to be preoccupied talking on the phone. Hunter and Becky continue to scream before Becky decides to throw down her shoes in the hopes that he will notice, but he does not, and begins walking away. Becky pulls out the flare gun and prepares to fire it, but Hunter tells her to hold off because there are apparently people parked with their RV not far from the tower, so they should wait until sundown to fire the flare. Becky kills time while they wait by scrolling through her phone, looking at old videos, and notices an odd clip. In it, she sees Hunter, who is envious of her and Dan. Her best friend brings her back to reality by telling her it's time to shoot the flare. Becky does as she is told, while Hunter waves her phone around with the flash on. Fortunately, the two men in the RV notice them and proceed to drive their RV to the gate, right next to Hunter's car. Instead of going to the tower, they break into Hunter's car and steal it, dash their hopes. That night, the two best friends are forced to sleep up on the tower until Hunter nearly falls and Becky pulls her back up. Becky points out the tattoo she just noticed on Hunter's bare feet, which contains the numbers 143, which Dan always said whenever Becky asked him to say "I love you." Hunter has no choice but to admit that she and Dan had an affair in the past. The two are stuck in an uncomfortable tension in the morning, so Becky begins inquiring about the affair, prompting Hunter to apologize profusely and insist that she did fall in love with Dan. She chose to end the affair just before Becky and Dan's wedding because she felt guilty and valued their friendship more. Soon after, Becky's phone alarm goes off, marking the 24th hour they've been stuck here. This makes it clear that no help is on the way, and Becky wishes they had their drone with them, but it's stuck inside the backpack on the satellite dish. Hunter eventually decides to go down there and take the backpack, possibly to atone for her previous mistakes. She wraps her carabiner around the pole and starts descending. Unfortunately, she falls short of her goal. She unhooks herself from the rope and jumps on the dish, successfully reaching her backpack. However, the rope is now out of reach, so she pulls a selfie stick from her backpack. She successfully hooks the backpack onto the rope before leaping onto it. Hunter ascends and nearly reaches the summit, but then Becky begins to cry after Hunter falls. When she looks down, she sees Hunter still clinging to the rope, but her hands are now injured, rendering her unable to climb back up. Becky then employs all of her strength and thankfully manages to pull Hunter back to safety. They decide to write a note, and tuck it into the drone before sending it away after taking a sip of water from the backpack. Unfortunately, it runs out of juice before it gets very far, forcing them to return it. Becky appears desperate now that she has run out of ideas, but Hunter assures her that they will find a way out soon enough. Later that night, Becky awakens to discover that Hunter has died, and her corpse has been ravaged by vultures. Fortunately, it was all a bad dream. When she notices the red light above her, she has an idea. They need to climb up and charge the drone with Hunter's makeshift charger. They then wait until morning to do it, and because Hunter's hands are badly burned from the rope, it's all up to Becky. Despite her injured thigh, she climbs to the top with Hunter's encouragement. Becky reaches the top and unscrews the light socket before plugging in the charger. She hangs on while waiting for the drone to charge, until a vulture starts messing with her because of the wound on her thigh. The vulture even knocks her backpack over. Fortunately, Becky clings to the pole and manages to keep the drone safe. Becky slides back down and pukes her guts out once it has fully charged. They must now wait for the diner to open before sending the drone there, but Becky struggles to stay awake due to a lack of food and exhaustion. Hunter keeps her awake by conversing with her until it is time for them to send the drone. They tuck another node into the drone and send it flying out to the diner. Unfortunately, it is hit by a parsing truck just before reaching its destination. They watch the day parse them by, hopeless, until Becky says she can't possibly survive another day out here, but Hunter tells her to stay strong. Recognizing that her best friend is correct, Becky requests Hunter's other shoe so she can throw her phone down this time, as it is the very last thing they can do. Hunter says no this time because, as it turns out, Hunter was never up there with her the whole time. Yes, Hunter died a while ago after falling after retrieving the backpack, and her dead body is now lying on top of the dish below, being eaten by a vulture. The heartbroken Becky has been alone the entire time, but instead of acknowledging it, she conjures up a delusion of her best friend to make her feel less lonely. Becky, finally confronted with reality, sobs as a strong wind blows around her. She remembers her father and how much she loves him, and decides to record a goodbye message, indicating that she has given up on surviving. On the other hand, her worried father has been attempting to contact her and locate her whereabouts. Our girl Becky is still sitting on the tower the next day, and her injured leg has attracted the attention of a hungry vulture. It starts pecking at Becky's wound, so she yanks it off with the last of her strength and bashes its head in, killing it instantly. She then devours the vulture out of hunger, revealing that there is still hope in her. She musters the courage to climb down to reach for Hunter's shoe, her last hope, once she has regained her strength. She then lets go of the rope and lands on top of the satellite dish, frightening the vulture that is eating Hunter's flesh. She then sends a text to her father, informing him of her whereabouts, and tucks it inside Hunter's shoe. Becky apologizes before inserting the shoe into Hunter's exposed gut and throwing her dead body down to prevent the phone from being crushed by the fall. But then a screw comes loose on the rusted dish, putting her in danger. We then cut to Becky's father rushing to the tower location a few hours later. Following that, we see police officers and medics gathered around the tower, just as Becky's father arrives and sees a dead body covered in a tarp. Becky calls for him and rushes up to him just as the father fears his daughter is dead to let him know she is safe and sound. This is the end of the film.